Hello, and welcome to this special immersive lesson. Today, we are traveling back more than 2,400 years to ancient China to uncover a secret so powerful it helped feed more people than any other protein system in human history. Long before the Latin word aquaculture existed, aqua meaning water, culture meaning to cultivate, there was an infinite food system that sustained millions. And then, it disappeared from history. For over 2,500 years, this knowledge was suppressed. To suppress means to prevent something from being seen, shared, or understood. Why would a system capable of feeding entire civilizations be hidden? In this lesson, you won't just learn history. You will uncover a forgotten survival strategy. You will expand your English vocabulary with powerful words about farming, ecology, government, and revolution. And you will sharpen your listening skills by following a true story, with real dates, real people, and real consequences. Stay with me, because by the end of this lesson, you may see food, history, and power very differently. Listen for 5 vocabulary themes: agricultural terms like cultivate and harvest, political words like dynasty and decree, scientific concepts like ecosystem and nitrogen, action verbs like innovated and survived, and descriptive language like thriving and self-sufficient. Don't stop if you don't understand everything. Context will teach you. Listen like you're reading a novel. Let the story carry you forward. Around 5,500 years ago, that's 3,500 BC, along China's Yellow River during the Neolithic period, farmers began to observe something. To observe means to watch carefully and notice patterns. The word Neolithic breaks down as neo, meaning new, and lithic, meaning stone, the New Stone Age. After seasonal floods receded means pulled back, retreated. Fish were trapped in natural depressions. A depression here doesn't mean sadness. It means a low area in the ground, a floodplain next to the river. Notice the verb pattern, from passive to active. Fish were trapped. Passive, it happened naturally. Farmers noticed, active observation. They dug deeper, active intervention. They reinforced the edges with clay, active engineering. Fish thrived, the result. To thrive means not just to survive, but to grow healthy and strong. The fish didn't just live. They thrived. They reproduced. They multiplied. This was not domination of nature. This was partnership with nature. They didn't force the land to do something unnatural. They enhanced what the land already wanted to do. Partnership means working together with mutual benefit. Intervention means taking action to change something. But this intervention was gentle, cooperative. By the time the Tang Dynasty began around 1600 BC, this practice had formalized. Oracle bones, bones used for prophecy, for predicting the future, contain inscriptions that reference fishing in the garden. An inscription is words carved into hard material. An artifact is an object made by humans, found by archaeologists. These artifacts prove the practice existed. Archaeologists interpret this as managed fish ponds integrated into agricultural plots. Here's where social class emerges. The nobility, the wealthy upper class, kept ornamental ponds with golden koi. Ornamental means for decoration, for beauty. These were symbols of status, of wealth and power. The peasantry, poor farmers, maintained functional ponds with common carp. Functional means for practical use, for a purpose. Both systems produced food. But notice this detail, this small fact that becomes important later. The wealthy didn't need permission from authorities. The poor did. An authority is a person or organization with power. Permission is approval to do something. Then in 618 AD, the Tang Dynasty began. The emperor's family name was Li, spelled Li, pronounced Li. By coincidence, by chance, by accident. The common carp's name was also pronounced Li, though written with different characters. These are homophones, words that sound the same. Out of reverence, or perhaps superstition, the emperor issued a decree. Reverence means deep respect, almost religious. Superstition is belief not based on reason or science. A decree is an official order from a ruler. The decree stated, "The cultivation of common carp is hereby prohibited throughout the empire." Let me explain this formal language. Hereby means by this decree. Prohibited means banned, made illegal. This is how official government language sounds: formal, distant, powerful. For peasant farmers, this was not an inconvenience, a minor problem. This was a potential catastrophe. Catastrophe means a disaster, a terrible event. Carp had been their primary, their main, their most important protein source for over 1,000 years. They had subsisted on carp. To subsist means to survive with minimal resources. They had depended on carp. They had relied on carp. Notice how I'm giving you synonyms, words with similar meanings, to help you understand. Faced with this crisis, farmers didn't surrender. They didn't give up. They didn't despair. Instead, they innovated. They adapted. They transformed the problem into an opportunity. To innovate means to create something new. To adapt means to change to fit new conditions. They began raising multiple species, many different types, in the same pond. They diversified. To diversify means to make more varied. Each species occupied a different ecological niche. Ecological means related to how organisms interact with their environment. A niche is a special role or position in an ecosystem. Mud carp fed on bottom sediments. Mud, dirt, material that settles. Silver carp filtered algae in the middle water column, the layer of water between top and bottom. Grass carp consumed, ate, plants at the surface. Bighead carp ate zooplankton, tiny animals floating in the water. Because each species occupied a different niche, there was no competition, no fighting for the same resources. Because there was no competition, there was no waste. Nothing was left unused. The result was a self-regulating ecosystem, a system that balanced itself without human intervention. Notice these because clauses. They show cause and effect relationships. Here is the irony, the unexpected twist. A ban meant to honor the emperor created the most productive, most efficient, most successful food system in history. An unintentional policy created intentional innovation. Unintentional means not planned, accidental. A paradox is something that seems contradictory, but is true. By the 1200s, the 13th century, European travelers and merchants began visiting China. Marco Polo and other chroniclers documented what they saw. A chronicler is a person who records historical events. Their testimony, their written accounts, describes village fish ponds as a defining feature of the Chinese landscape. Fish ponds were ubiquitous, found everywhere you looked. Production was abundant, plentiful, more than enough. The practice was pervasive. It had permeated, spread through the entire culture. Some ponds had endured for centuries. To endure means to last, to continue to exist. They had persisted, continued despite difficulty. They had been sustained by multiple generations. To sustain means to maintain over time. A pond built in 900 AD was still yielding, still producing thousands of pounds of protein in 1200 AD. 300 years of continuous production. That is true sustainability. Here's what astonished, amazed, shocked European observers most. Chinese farmers added no external inputs, no purchased feed, no imported nutrients. The ponds were autonomous systems, independent, self-governing. They fed themselves. High output with minimal input. This contradicted everything Europeans understood about farming. When European settlers arrived in America, they brought their own preconceptions, ideas formed in advance. They perceived Chinese methods as primitive, too simple, too basic. They dismissed the ponds as unworthy of serious attention. This was cultural arrogance, excessive pride in their own way. But primitive was a mischaracterization, a wrong description. The ponds weren't simple. They were sophisticated biological engineering. Sophisticated means complex, advanced, refined. Americans chose cattle, pigs, chickens, all labor-intensive animals. Labor-intensive means requiring much work. These animals required constant feeding. They required fencing, shelter, veterinary care. They required external inputs every single day. In contrast, showing the difference, Chinese ponds required almost nothing. Cattle are more labor-intensive than fish ponds. Ponds are less dependent on external resources than livestock. Fish ponds were the most efficient protein system available. Notice these comparative and superlative forms. By the 20th century, backyard ponds had been relegated to decoration. To relegate means to put in a less important position. Practical aquaculture was marginalized, pushed to the edges. The knowledge was trivialized, made to seem unimportant. Ornamental ponds for the wealthy. Nothing that actually fed anyone. In the 1960s, during early concerns about food security, Dr. H.S. Swingle and his team at Auburn University in Alabama developed a hypothesis. A hypothesis is a scientific guess to be tested. Can ancient Chinese aquaculture methods be repeated, in modern America? Their methodology was careful. Methodology is the system of methods used in research. They built test ponds. They recorded data, facts, and statistics collected. They followed ancient protocols. The results were quantifiable. They could be measured in exact numbers. A 1,000 square foot pond produced, up to 350 pounds of fish annually. To benchmark this, to compare it to a standard, consider cattle. A quarter acre of pasture yields about 200 pounds of beef per year. That's half the protein, using 10 times the space. The pond was twice as productive. The pond used 1/10 the land. The pond required significantly fewer inputs. Notice how we express mathematical comparisons in English. The studies were published in scientific journals. They were peer-reviewed, examined by other scientists, and validated, confirmed as true. A few permaculture enthusiasts cited, referenced, the research, but the information was never disseminated, spread, to the general public. Why? The answer is economic, not scientific. The American meat industry is valued at $200 billion. Government subsidies, government money given to support industrial livestock farming. But backyard ponds receive no subsidies, no support, no promotion. Because if families produce their own protein, they disrupt the market. To disrupt means to interrupt or interfere with. They stop being consumers, people who buy products. Large industries have no incentive, no reason, to promote backyard food production. In fact, they have a disincentive, a reason not to promote it. But the knowledge survived. Let me explain how the system actually works. This is not just a pond. It's a holistic ecosystem with 4 interdependent components. Holistic means considering the whole system, not just parts. Interdependent means depending on each other. A component is a part of a larger system. Each component has multiple functions. Together, they create synergy, when parts work together to create more than the sum. Component 1. Waterfowl, specifically ducks. Ducks serve 3 primary functions. Primary means main, most important. Function 1. They agitate, stir up, bottom sediments, releasing nutrients into the water. Function 2. They defecate continuously, adding nitrogen to the water. Defecate is the formal, scientific term for eliminating waste. Function 3. They consume insects, plants, and small organisms. Watch how this creates a cascade, a waterfall effect, one thing leading to another. Duck excrement contains nitrogen. Nitrogen feeds algae. Algae feeds zooplankton. Zooplankton feeds small fish. Small fish feed large fish. Ducks also produce eggs, up to 300 eggs per duck per year. A small flock of 5 ducks produces 1,500 eggs annually. That's 125 eggs per month, more than most families consume. Component 2. Aquatic plants. Aquatic means living in or near water. Plants perform multiple functions. To perform means to do, to carry out. Cattails filter excess nitrogen and phosphorus. They stabilize, make stable, the pond edges. They provide habitat for beneficial insects. Water hyacinths can absorb nitrogen at remarkable rates. To absorb means to take in. Studies show they can remove up to 90% of nitrogen within 2 weeks. This stops, algae blooms that would otherwise suffocate the fish. To suffocate means to kill by removing oxygen. Submerged plants like hornwort photosynthesize, use light to produce energy. During photosynthesis, they let out, oxygen into the water. This oxygen is essential, absolutely necessary, for fish respiration, for breathing. Component 3. Fish species. Let me compare 3 species. To compare means to examine similarities and differences. Bluegill have moderate growth rate, not fast, not slow, medium. They reproduce prolifically, producing many offspring. They require minimal care, very little. Best for beginners, people just starting. Channel catfish have rapid growth rate. Fast, quick. They reach market size in 18 months, about 1 to 2 pounds. Their flavor is mild, not strong. They're tolerant of poor water quality. They can survive in less than perfect conditions. Tilapia have the fastest growth rate. They reach 1 pound in just 5 to 6 months. However, they're temperature sensitive, affected by cold. Their legal status is restricted in many northern states. Always check local regulations before purchasing. Component 4. Beneficial bacteria. These are microscopic, too small to see without a microscope. Bacteria is plural, the singular is bacterium. These are beneficial, helpful, positive organisms. They convert, change from one form to another. Fish waste through a process called the nitrogen cycle. This is complex, but important. I'll explain step by step. Fish excrete ammonia, a toxic chemical compound. Ammonia is lethal, deadly, to fish in high concentrations. Bacteria species called nitrosomonas convert ammonia into nitrites. Nitrites are less toxic, but still harmful. Different bacteria called nitrobacter convert nitrites into nitrates. Nitrates are harmless, not dangerous, to fish. Plants absorb nitrates as fertilizer, food for growth. This completes the cycle. Once established, once set up and running, this cycle is autonomous. It regulates itself. It balances itself. You don't manage it. You don't control it. You simply observe and occasionally intervene if something goes wrong. Notice how everything is interconnected, connected to everything else. Ducks feed plants. Plants clean water. Clean water supports fish. Fish waste feeds bacteria. Bacteria feed plants. This is a closed-loop system. Nothing is wasted, everything cycles. This is called mutualism in ecology, a relationship where all parties benefit. Now, how do you build this? The initial investment, money spent at the beginning, ranges from $400 to $600. This includes all materials, all supplies, all livestock. Recurring costs, expenses that repeat regularly, are minimal, less than $50 per year for supplemental duck feed. If you amortize the cost, spread it over time, over 10 years, that's $40 to $60 per year. Your return on investment? Thousands of pounds of protein. First, assess your land's topography, its physical shape. Topography means the physical features of land. Identify the lowest elevation point where water naturally accumulates, collects. Good drainage is essential. Drainage is how water flows away. Excavate, dig out, to these dimensions. Dimensions are measurements, sizes. Length, 10 to 15 feet. Width, 8 to 12 feet. Maximum depth, 4 to 5 feet at center. Create a shelf around the perimeter, distance around the edge, 1 foot deep, 2 to 3 feet wide. You need an impermeable barrier to prevent water leakage. Impermeable means water cannot pass through. Use an EPDM synthetic rubber liner. Synthetic means man-made, not natural. These are durable, long-lasting, and last 20 to 30 years. Now introduce life, but in stages. A stage is a phase in a process. Stage 1. Fill the pond. If using chlorinated water, allow 1 week for chlorine to evaporate, turn to gas, and disappear. Stage 2. Plant your vegetation. This inoculates, introduces beneficial bacteria. The bacteria colonize, spread throughout all surfaces. Allow 2 to 4 weeks for root establishment. Stage 3. Introduce waterfowl. They will immediately begin agitating sediments. Water may become turbid, cloudy, temporarily. This is normal. Stage 4. Finally, stock fingerlings, young fish, small enough to fit on your finger, at 50 per 1,000 square feet. They will disappear into the substrate, bottom material. Do not panic. Do not overpopulate, add too many. During the first 6 months, resist the urge to intervene. The ecosystem is finding its equilibrium, its balance. By month 6, you'll observe visible fish. By month 12, ducks will be laying consistently, regularly. By month 18, fish reach harvestable size. By year 2, the system is fully autonomous. In temperate climates where ponds freeze, fish enter a dormant state. Temperate means moderate climate, not extreme. Dormant means inactive but alive. They hibernate, sleep through winter, at the bottom where water doesn't freeze. You must keep, a small opening for gas exchange. A pond de-icer costs about $40. Tilapia cannot survive, temperatures below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. They must be harvested before winter or brought indoors. Most states don't require permits for ponds under 1 acre. However, you must comply, follow rules, with species restrictions. Check your local fish and game department for authorized species. This knowledge has demonstrated remarkable resilience. Resilience is the ability to recover and survive. It persisted through the fall of dynasties. It was transmitted, passed on, across generations. It was preserved, kept safe, despite deliberate suppression. Why? Because the knowledge was too valuable, too useful to lose. Modern food systems exhibit increasing volatility, instability, unpredictable changes. Supply chains are vulnerable, weak, exposed to disruption. A backyard ecosystem offers resilience against these vulnerabilities. Sovereignty doesn't mean isolation. It means choice. Sovereignty is independence and self-governance. It means you're not entirely dependent, relying on others, on systems beyond your control. It means you have agency, the power to act. This knowledge empowers you to make different choices. Empowerment creates resilience. Resilience creates security. You've just acquired, gained, learned over 200 new English words and phrases. You learn them through context, through the story, not through memorization. This method improves retention, ability to remember, because your brain connects words to meaning. Notice what just happened. You comprehended, understood, a complex historical and scientific topic entirely in English. You didn't translate. You didn't stop every sentence. You let context teach you. You let the narrative carry you forward. If you understood even 70% of this video, your English is advanced. If you understood 50%, your English is intermediate and rapidly improving. The goal isn't to understand every word on first listen. The goal is to engage with complex content. Replay this video with subtitles. Pause when you hear a new word. Write it down. Use it in a sentence. Research the historical events I mentioned. Practice retelling this story to someone else in English. Just as a pond ecosystem builds itself over time, your English proficiency, skill level, builds through exposure and engagement. Just as ancient knowledge persisted through transmission, your language skills strengthen through practice. The pond is waiting. The knowledge is here. The choice is yours. Now you have the vocabulary to understand it. You have the comprehension to build it. You have the confidence to begin. Subscribe for more stories that teach both history and English. Your journey toward mastery, complete skill, begins now.